Please save us, Daddy. He's a monster. That was the first thing I heard before everything went black again. My daughter's cries echoed in the hall. Their tiny voices broke through the ringing in my ears. I tried to open my eyes, but everything hurt. My head throbbed. My body felt heavy. My heartbeat was slow and uneven. When I finally managed to lift my head, the world around me was spinning. And then, I saw it. Blood. My blood. Spilled across the white marble floor, dripping from the stairs above me. I could still hear the sound of my body hitting each step before I landed here, motionless, my children screaming. The house was too quiet now. The storm outside had stopped, but inside chaos still lingered. My girls were crouched a few feet away, holding each other. Their cheeks were red, wet with tears. "Mommy," my eldest whispered. "Please get up. Please." Her voice cracked like glass. I tried to reach for her, but my hand slipped on the floor. The pain shot through my body, sharp and cruel, reminding me what had just happened. He pushed me. The man I once called my mate, the man I married, the man I thought would protect me, had just thrown me down the stairs like I was nothing. And for what? Because dinner wasn't ready on time? Because I dared to tell him no? Because I refused to smile anymore when he came home smelling of another omega? I could still hear his voice in my head, cold, loud, filled with anger. "You think you can talk back to me? You're lucky I even let you live in this house." He had grabbed my wrist, his eyes wild. I remembered the way his fingers dug into my skin, the shove, the scream that escaped my mouth as I lost my balance. And then silence. Now, all that was left was the blood. And my daughters, 3 beautiful little girls who didn't deserve to see any of this. The youngest one, barely 4, crawled toward me, her little hands shaking. "Mommy, please don't sleep," she sobbed, clutching my sleeve. "Wake up." I tried to smile. "I'm okay, baby," I whispered, even though my voice was weak. "Daddy's coming." I didn't mean him. Not the monster who lived here. I meant the real one, the only man my kids ever called Daddy with love. The one who had always been there for us when things went wrong. The one who treated my daughters like his own. The doctor. My best friend. My first love. The man I had to let go when my family forced me to marry this alpha. He didn't know what kind of hell I was living in now. But my daughters did. And they called him. I heard the faint sound of a car outside. Then footsteps. Fast, heavy ones. The door burst open. "Where are they?" His voice filled the house, deep and trembling. My girls ran toward him before I could say a word. He caught them in his arms, dropping to his knees, checking their faces, their hands, their bodies for injuries. "Are you okay? Did he touch you?" he asked, his voice cracking with fear. The eldest shook her head, sobbing. Mommy's hurt." He looked up then, and our eyes met. For a second, the world stopped moving. He looked the same. Strong jaw, dark hair damp from rain, eyes full of something between anger and heartbreak. But when his gaze dropped to the blood around me, I saw something break inside him. "God, no," he whispered, crawling toward me. I tried to sit up. He stopped me gently. "Don't move," he said, voice tight. "You're bleeding too much." "I'm fine," I lied. I wasn't. My whole body felt like it was falling apart. He pressed his hand against the wound on my arm, trying to stop the bleeding. His touch was warm. Familiar. Safe. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I didn't answer. I couldn't. He already knew. His eyes darkened. "Where is he?" "Gone," I whispered. "For now." He clenched his jaw. His whole body shook with anger, but he didn't say anything. He just looked at me like he was trying not to fall apart. Then he turned toward my daughters and said softly, "Go to your room, sweethearts. Take your baby sister with you. Lock the door." They didn't argue. They trusted him more than anyone. When they were gone, he looked back at me, his voice rough. "You should have called me the first time he hurt you." "I thought I could handle it," I whispered. "He wasn't always like this." He stared at me in disbelief. "Yes, he was. You just refused to see it." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. He was right. He helped me up carefully. My legs wobbled. When he wrapped his arm around me, I almost broke down from how gentle he was. It had been so long since anyone touched me without cruelty. "Come with me," he said. "You can't stay here. I'll take you and the girls somewhere safe." "He'll find us," I said quietly. "He always does." "Not this time," he whispered. "I swear to you, I won't let him." His voice was steady, but his eyes, they were full of fear. Not for himself, for us. He led me toward the door, his arms still around my waist. The floor creaked beneath our steps, the house eerily quiet now. Each shadow seemed alive, each corner heavy with memories I wanted to forget. As we reached the front door, I froze. There was a sound upstairs. A faint creak. Then another. Footsteps. He stopped too. "Stay here." "No," I whispered, grabbing his arm. "Please don't go up there." But he didn't listen. He pulled away and slowly moved toward the stairs. Each step he took felt like it dragged my heart closer to breaking. He disappeared into the dark hallway above. Silence. Then, a loud crash. A growl. A scream that wasn't his. I covered my mouth, trembling. "No." Seconds later, he came running back down, breathless, his eyes wide. "Get the girls," he said. "Now." "What's happening?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just looked toward the window, where the rain had started again, and whispered, "He's back." The lights flickered once, then went out completely. The house fell into darkness. The last thing I heard before everything went silent again was my youngest daughter's voice upstairs, screaming, "Daddy, please save us." My heart almost stopped when I heard my daughter's scream. "Daddy, please save us." The sound ripped through the house, echoing through the walls. I didn't think, I just ran. I pushed past the doctor and stumbled up the stairs, blood still dripping from my forehead. My legs were shaking, but I didn't care. My children were upstairs, and he was back. He was supposed to be gone. He was supposed to leave us alone. But monsters never stay gone for long, do they? The hallway was dark, the air thick and heavy. Every step I took echoed like thunder. I could hear the children crying from their room, muffled, desperate sobs. "Mommy," the eldest cried out. "He's here." My hand was shaking as I turned the doorknob. But before I could open it, I felt a hand grab my wrist from behind. "Wait," the doctor whispered, pulling me back. His breath was warm against my ear. "You can't go in there alone." "He's hurting them," I said, trying to pull free. "I won't let him touch them," he said, voice low and fierce. "But you have to trust me." Something in his tone made me stop. I nodded, trembling. He slowly pushed the door open. The room was a mess, broken glass on the floor, the curtains torn. My youngest was hiding under the bed, the middle one pressed against the wall, sobbing. And there he was, standing in the middle of the room. My husband, the alpha I once loved. His eyes were wild, unfocused, like he was drunk on rage. His shirt was unbuttoned, his knuckles red. When he turned and saw me, he smiled. That same cruel smile that used to make my heart race for all the wrong reasons. "Well," he said slowly, his voice sharp and mocking. "Look who's finally decided to wake up." The doctor stepped in front of me, blocking his view. "Don't take another step," he warned. My husband laughed. "You again? What is it with you and my family? You think you can steal what's mine?" "They're not yours," the doctor said coldly. "You lost that right the day you laid a hand on them." My husband's eyes narrowed. "You think she'll ever love you? You're a replacement. A pity project." The doctor didn't answer. His body tensed, ready for anything. I could feel the heat between them, the kind of hatred that only comes from two men who once loved the same person in different ways. Then everything happened fast. My husband lunged at him, his fist flying. The doctor dodged, grabbed his arm, and shoved him back into the wall. The crash made my youngest scream. I ran to her, pulling her into my arms, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here." Behind me, the two alphas fought like beasts, punches, growls, broken furniture. The room shook with their fury. "You don't deserve her," the doctor shouted. "She's mine," my husband roared, slamming him against the dresser. "She'll always be mine." I turned, screaming, "Stop. Please." They didn't. Not until I stepped between them. "Enough," I cried. My voice cracked, tears running down my face. "You're both going to kill each other." The doctor froze first. He stepped back, chest heaving, blood trickling from his lip. My husband glared at me, eyes full of something dark and twisted. "You're choosing him, aren't you?" he said softly. "You're choosing him over me." "I'm choosing peace," I whispered. He laughed bitterly. "You'll never have peace. Not with him. Not without me." Then he stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I stood there shaking, the sound of rain outside matching the pounding of my heart. The doctor gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. I turned to him, my tears finally breaking free. "No," I whispered. "I'm not." He didn't say anything else. He just pulled me into his arms, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel fear. I felt safe. He held me like I was something precious. His hand trembled against my back, but his voice was steady when he whispered, You're safe now. I promise. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But deep down, I knew that monsters don't just disappear. They wait. Hours later, we sat in the living room. The girls had fallen asleep, huddled together on the couch. The storm outside had quieted, leaving only the soft tapping of rain on the window. The doctor cleaned the cut on my arm. His touch was careful, gentle. He didn't look at me much, but when he did, his eyes were full of emotion I couldn't name. "Why do you still love him?" he asked quietly. I froze. I hadn't expected that question. "I don't know," I whispered after a long silence. "Maybe because he was my first everything. My first kiss. My first heartbreak. My first mistake." He looked at me, his expression pained. "You deserve better." "Do I?" I said softly, smiling bitterly. "Sometimes I wonder if love just means pain in different forms." He shook his head. "No. Love should never hurt. It should make you feel alive." His words hit something deep inside me. Alive. I hadn't felt alive in years. Not until now. We sat in silence for a while. The room felt strangely peaceful, warm, almost tender. He made some tea, handed me a cup, and smiled faintly when our fingers brushed. "Your daughters are brave," he said. "They called me themselves." "I know," I whispered. "They love you." He smiled sadly. "They shouldn't have to. They should be calling their real father." "They do," I said quietly, looking at him. "You're the only one they call Daddy." He froze, staring at me. The words hung between us like something forbidden, fragile, beautiful. For a moment, I thought he'd say something, but he didn't. He just looked away, swallowing hard. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, the stairs, the fall, the blood, the way my husband looked at me before he pushed me. I got up quietly and went to check on the kids. They were asleep, holding hands. My heart ached. Then I walked to the window and froze. Outside, parked across the street, was his car. The monster's car. The doctor came up behind me, following my gaze. His face went pale. "He's watching," he said quietly. My breath hitched. "He knows we're still here." He turned to me, gripping my arms. "Pack your things. Take the kids. We're leaving. Now. Where will we go?" I whispered. "Anywhere he can't find you," he said. "I'll protect you no matter what." He sounded so sure, so strong, that for a moment I believed him again. But then a shadow moved outside the window. A figure stepped closer. It was him, and this time he was smiling. The glass shattered a second later, spraying across the room. The lights went out. I screamed as the doctor pushed me to the floor, shielding me with his body. The kids woke up, crying. Footsteps entered the house, slow, deliberate, familiar. And then I heard his voice in the darkness. "You thought you could run from me?" The glass fell like rain. Shards scattered across the floor, glimmering under the faint light from the hallway. The doctor's arm wrapped tightly around me as he shielded me from the falling pieces. My children were crying somewhere behind us. Their voices cracked my heart. "Stay behind me," the doctor shouted. But I couldn't. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't stay still. Because I knew that voice. And then I heard it again, low, deep, angry. "My daughters," he said bitterly. 3 daughters. You can't even give me one son." The words cut through the air like a blade. He stepped into the light, my husband, the alpha I once believed could love me. His eyes were dark, burning, unrecognizable. He looked more like a stranger than the man I'd once called mine. "Do you know what they say about me now?" he said, his voice shaking. "They call me cursed. They whisper that my mate can't even give me an heir. That I married an omega who brought shame to my name." I took a step back. "They're children," I whispered. "Our children. They're innocent." He laughed coldly. "Innocent? They're reminders of your failure. Every time I look at them, I see weakness." The doctor moved between us. "That's enough," he said sharply. "You're talking about your own family." "My family?" My husband's voice turned sharp, trembling with fury. "They're not my family. They're mistakes." My breath hitched. The children's crying grew louder. I wanted to run to them, but my legs wouldn't move. The doctor stood taller. "You're wrong," he said. "They're the best parts of her, brave, kind, strong. You're the one who doesn't deserve them." That made my husband snap. He moved forward fast, his voice rising like thunder. "You think you can come into my house and take what's mine? You think you can make her forget who she belongs to?" The doctor didn't back away. "You lost her the moment you stopped seeing her as a person." The tension in the air was unbearable. 2 alphas, both strong, both angry, both fighting for something broken. "Stop!" I screamed. Please stop. But my husband's rage only grew. I worked my whole life for this family, he shouted. And she gave me nothing. No son, no legacy, just shame and 3 useless daughters. The words made my heart collapse inside me. Every time he said useless, I felt my daughter's little hands clutching mine tighter in fear. I wasn't afraid for me anymore. I was afraid for them. The doctor stepped closer to me, his voice soft now. You need to get out, he whispered. Take the girls. I'll handle him. I can't leave you, I said. You have to. But before I could move, my husband slammed his hand against the wall, blocking the door. His face twisted with something between rage and heartbreak. You'll never take them from me, he said, his voice trembling. You'll never leave. Something in his eyes made me step back. He wasn't just angry, he was broken. Please, I said softly. Just stop. We can fix this. He shook his head. You already destroyed everything. For a moment, it was silent, only the sound of rain hitting the windows. Then he whispered, almost to himself, I wanted a son, and the universe laughed at me. The doctor spoke quietly. You don't hate her. You hate yourself for not being enough. My husband's jaw clenched. You don't know anything about me. I know what I see, the doctor said. A man who had everything and lost it because he couldn't love what he already had. My husband's expression faltered. For the smallest second, he looked human again, hurt, tired, lost. But then something snapped. His hand slammed down on the table beside him, sending glass shattering again. The children screamed. I ran to them, pulling them close. It's okay, I whispered. Mommy's here. But I wasn't sure if it was okay. I wasn't sure of anything anymore. He started pacing, mumbling to himself. You'll all leave me. Just like everyone else. The doctor took a cautious step forward. No one's leaving, he said carefully. But you need help. Help. My husband turned to him slowly, his eyes empty now. Help is for weak men. He started walking toward us. Every step made my heart beat faster. The doctor moved in front of us, his body tense. Don't, he warned. Get out of my way, my husband hissed. I won't, the doctor said. Not this time. For a moment, no one moved. The rain outside grew louder, the lightning flashed, and everything felt suspended, like time itself was holding its breath. Then chaos. A crash. A shout. The sound of something breaking again. Louder this time. I couldn't see clearly. The world blurred with tears and fear. I remember reaching out, calling their names, my daughters, the doctor, but my voice was swallowed by the noise. Something struck my shoulder, or maybe I fell. The room spun. My vision dimmed. The last thing I heard was the doctor's voice, desperate and breaking. And then, the silence that follows destruction. When I opened my eyes, I was on the floor. The air was cold, heavy. My hands felt wet, but I couldn't tell if it was from rain or something else. The room smelled like smoke and rain and sorrow. The children were crying faintly somewhere far away. The doctor's voice echoed, calling my name again and again, fading in and out. I tried to answer. I really did. But all I could manage was a whisper. Take care of them, please. My chest felt tight. My vision darkened at the edges. Everything slowed, the world dissolving into soft, gray noise. And then nothing. No sound. No pain. Just black. The world felt heavier that morning. The sky hung low, gray and swollen, as if it carried the weight of all the unspoken things I had swallowed over the years. I stood near the window, watching the mist settle on the trees. My hands trembled as I held the cup of tea the children had made for me. They didn't know it yet, but today was going to change everything. The knock on the door was firm, sharp like the sound of control. When I opened it, he stood there, calm, dressed in a dark coat that matched his energy, quiet but commanding. His eyes were steady, and his voice was deep when he spoke. It's done, he said simply. I blinked, confused for a moment. What do you mean? He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. He's been arrested. My breath caught. I almost dropped the cup. What did you do? He didn't answer at first. Instead, he looked around the room. The walls still marked from the times I'd been shoved against them. The little decorations the children had tried to use to cover the cracks. Then his gaze returned to me. I did what should have been done a long time ago. There was power in his tone, quiet but absolute. The kind of power that didn't need to shout to be heard. I could see it in the way he carried himself, in the way his presence seemed to pull the air around him into obedience. You have connections, I whispered. You use them. He gave a small nod. I told you before, no one gets to hurt you again. Something inside me trembled. I wanted to cry, to thank him, to yell at him for doing something so impossible. I didn't know which emotion to choose, so I just stared. Did he fight? I asked. He looked at me, his jaw tightened. He tried, but he's nothing outside his walls. Men like him don't know how to face consequences. The words hung between us, sharp and satisfying. I sat down slowly, my knees weak, the weight of relief pressing against my chest. The children were in the other room, playing quietly. They didn't know yet either. I wanted to protect that peace a little longer. Then I heard small feet padding across the floor. "Mommy," the youngest said softly, tugging at my sleeve. "He's here. Can he stay for breakfast?" He smiled, that rare, gentle smile that always made the room feel lighter. "If your mother allows." The child looked at me with hopeful eyes. I nodded before I could think. Of course. They cheered and ran to the kitchen. And suddenly, the house didn't feel like a cage anymore. He rolled up his sleeves and joined them, helping with the food. His voice mixed with their laughter, low and comforting. I stood by the doorway, watching the way he bent down to their level, how he let them sprinkle salt and make mistakes. He didn't scold, he guided. He was so different, so impossibly different. When he looked up and caught me staring, my breath stumbled. There was something in his gaze, steady, unreadable, but warm. It made me turn away too quickly. The breakfast was simple, eggs, rice, and miso soup. But to me, it felt like a feast. The children talked endlessly, telling him stories of their drawings and their dreams. He listened to every word. And when they called him Daddy, I froze, waiting for him to correct them. He didn't. He only smiled, gently ruffling their hair. "You've all grown so strong," he said. Something in me cracked. I had spent years trying to protect them from the word father. But somehow it felt right when they said it now. When the meal ended, he stood and went to wash the dishes. I tried to help, but he stopped me, lightly touching my wrist. "Sit," he said softly. "You've done enough." The warmth of his fingers lingered on my skin long after he moved away. I sat down quietly, trying to steady the pounding of my heart. Maybe this was what peace felt like. That evening, the house was filled with the smell of something sweet. The children were whispering and giggling, sneaking around with bowls and plates. When I asked what they were doing, they just said, "It's a surprise, Mommy." By the time the sun set, they had transformed the dining area. Candles, a small flower in a jar, and mismatched dishes that somehow looked beautiful together. They had even drawn a little sign that said, "Dinner time, for you and him." I turned to them, stunned. "You did this." They grinned proudly. "We want you both to be happy." My heart melted. I wanted to laugh, to cry, to tell them they didn't need to do this. But their little faces were glowing with hope. When he arrived later, he paused at the door, taking in the sight. "What's all this?" I was about to speak, but one of the children grabbed his hand. "It's dinner. You and Mommy have to eat together." He looked at me, eyes questioning. I felt my cheeks heat up. "I guess we have to listen to them," I murmured. The children giggled and ran off to their room, closing the door dramatically behind them. It was just the two of us now, in the soft candlelight, with the faint sound of laughter fading in the distance. He stepped closer, his movements slow and deliberate. "They planned this." "Yes," I said, nervously toying with the hem of my sleeve. They want us to spend time together." He smiled faintly, sitting across from me. "They're smarter than they look." We began to eat, the silence gentle, comfortable. I watched him sometimes, the way his shoulders relaxed, how his eyes softened when he looked at me. He had always carried himself like a man used to control, to power. But tonight, there was something tender beneath that dominance. "You don't have to keep thanking me," he said suddenly. I blinked. "What? For helping? For being here?" I didn't do it for gratitude. "Then why?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Because I care." The words hit me harder than I expected. My throat went dry. I looked away, pretending to focus on my plate. He leaned forward slightly. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. Not of him. Not of anyone." "I'm not afraid," I whispered, though my trembling hands betrayed me. "Then why won't you look at me?" I forced myself to meet his gaze. His eyes were deep, steady, full of something I didn't dare name. The air between us shifted. His hand moved, slow and careful, until it reached the edge of my plate. Then his thumb brushed the corner of my lip, wiping away a trace of sauce I hadn't noticed. "You always forget this part," he said quietly. My heart stopped. His touch lingered just a second too long. I could feel the heat rising in my face, spreading like fire beneath my skin. I swallowed hard. He smiled faintly, withdrawing his hand. Better. The silence that followed was thick, charged. I wanted to speak, to say something that would break it, but the words refused to come. Instead, I just looked down, afraid that if I looked up again, I'd fall apart completely. After a moment, he stood and walked toward the door. I followed, unsure why. When he turned back to me, his eyes were darker now, his voice low. "You've been through enough pain," he said. "You deserve something gentle." He hesitated, as if fighting himself, then reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face. The gesture was simple, but it made my heart ache. I closed my eyes for a moment, breathing in the space between us. "I wish I could love you," I whispered. "But I'm still broken." His voice softened. "Then let me help you heal." I opened my eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt something spark inside me, small, fragile, but alive. I wanted to hold on to it. But then a knock echoed on the door. Loud. Urgent. We froze. He turned toward it, his expression hardening instantly. That same power, that same command returning to his voice. "Stay here," he said. My heart pounded. I watched as he opened the door and stepped outside. His voice dropped, sharp and angry, speaking to someone I couldn't see. I caught only fragments, court order. Bail. He's trying again. Then silence. When he came back in, his face was tense, eyes shadowed. "He's out," he said. The system moved too fast. I felt my stomach drop. "What? But you said." "I know. But I won't let him near you again." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to hold on to that promise. But as I looked at him, standing there in the fading light, I realized something terrifying. Power could protect, but it could also destroy. And the world we lived in was too cruel to trust either. Still, I reached out and took his hand. "Please stay tonight." He nodded. "Always." That night, as the house fell quiet, I lay awake, the sound of his breathing from the couch in the other room steady and calm. I stared at the ceiling, replaying his words, his touch, the warmth in his eyes. Maybe I was falling. Maybe I had already fallen. And yet, somewhere deep inside me, I could still feel the shadow of the past waiting to return. I turned to the window. The wind was rising again, brushing against the glass like a whisper. The stars were hidden. And in that silence, I made a wish, a foolish, fragile wish. "I wish I could love him," I murmured. The room felt still, like the world was holding its breath. Then, the faint sound of breaking glass came from outside. I froze. His voice called out sharply from the other room. "Stay where you are." The light flickered once, then went out. Darkness swallowed everything. And just like that, the night began again.